Ruthless Mother. In 2005, my stepdad bought a house but was out of town, so he let my mom handle the paperwork. Only her name ended up on the deed, even though he paid most of the down payment and mortgage. Mom decided to sell the house in 2013 for around $450,000 to $600,000. She kept all the money and used it however she wanted. She said my stepdad had taken $30,000 from her line of credit on a bad investment, but that didn't make sense since he'd paid most of the mortgage. I was only little when they bought the house, so I couldn't tell you exactly how much it sold for. My stepdad and mom also set up a college fund for me in 2006. He put some money into it too, but mom had control of the account since her name was on it. When she withdrew the funds years later, they were gone. She said she used the money to buy a car that got totaled almost immediately. Now, she tries to say it never happened and even threatens to call the cops if I bring it up again. In 2021, when I was 26, mom tried to hit me with a salt shaker during an argument. She's 65 now, broke, carrying $10,000 in credit card debt, without a house or any savings. She's still paying for a new car she got recently. I feel like my mom set me up for failure and that I have every right to be resentful. She made life tough for me growing up too. It wasn't until she started taking medication for her mental health after hitting her boyfriend that things calmed down a bit. But the damage is still there, and it haunts me. Am I wrong to feel this way at 31? My boyfriend uses AI to respond to me sometimes during fights. Is this normal? So, here's the story rewritten. Alright, so there's this really weird situation I'm dealing with. I've been with my boyfriend Mike for almost 3 years now. We're an interracial couple, both non-native English speakers. For about 8 months, we were long distance but visiting each other a lot. Our relationship has worked out pretty well overall. In the beginning, we had some growing pains, figuring out how to talk and handle our boundaries. It's been a bit of a challenge, especially since Mike struggles more with the language when we argue. I'm better at it, but that doesn't make it easy. Recently, during a rough patch in our relationship because of communication issues, I was going through his phone, not to check if he was messaging other girls or anything like that, but to see if he had written down notes from our fights. You know, the kind of stuff we share with each other after to make sure we're on the same page. Guess what? He did something similar. Haha, it's weird but totally understandable because we both do this sometimes. We always check in with each other's notes and feelings. But here's the twist, I found out that Mike had been using AI tools like ChatGPT to help him respond to my messages during our arguments. It wasn't for anything bad or mean, he was just asking how to properly reply to me, since we weren't living together back then and text conversations were frequent. More recently, I saw he used Claude, another AI tool, to respond to a disagreement we had 2 weeks ago. Now, Mike is amazing and I love him, but something feels off. It's like he hasn't really improved his communication skills or sharing his feelings, especially when he relies on AI instead of just talking it out. It feels detached and uncaring, considering how hard we've worked to overcome the language barrier. We both agree that our bigger issues are about more than missing a few words in English. I know he's trying, he really does ask for help on how to talk to me nicely, but is this something I should worry about? Or am I just overthinking it? We reverse gazumped a greedy landlord and it was glorious. Gazumping happened to my best friend and her husband 15 years ago, and it's one of the proudest moments of my life. They have 5 kids together and lived in an expensive city, renting a rundown 4-bedroom house for $400 per week. The kitchen was gross, and the drains stank, but they made do with what they had. The owner, a nice old lady who was extremely wealthy, froze their rent for 5 years and promised to sell them the house once they saved enough money for a bank loan. They trusted her because she had helped others in similar situations before. It took them 5 long years, but finally, they told her they were ready. 2 days later, tragedy struck when the nice old lady passed away without putting anything in writing. The new owners, her 4 wealthy children, got involved. When my friends approached them about buying the house, they assured them that everything would still go through, but they had to wait until probate was settled. Confident, my friends started making changes to the place. They stripped wallpaper, painted, and made plans for the future. Finally, probate was settled, and the owners agreed to sell it at the previously agreed price. But when my friends applied for a loan, shock hit them, they were refused. The new owners had raised the asking price by $80,000 without telling my friends. To make matters worse, they decided to put the house on the open market and schedule an open house in just 7 days. Not only would it take longer than a week to get the money, but property prices had soared, and rents had gone up significantly. My friends were devastated. They might be able to borrow enough, but finding an affordable place with more than 2 bedrooms was nearly impossible if they couldn't buy this house. I was scared for my friends but also incredibly angry at these greedy people who didn't need the money. They were screwing over a struggling family for less than $20,000 each. It was pure greed, and it was obvious that they'd always planned to do this. While my friends scrambled to come up with the money, I started plotting. We made the place as undesirable as possible without making my friends look like bad tenants. We uncluttered by moving furniture away from the walls and added extra furniture and ornaments. On the stove, we boiled a head of cabbage, and we sprayed ammonia around the front and back doors to make it smell like cats marking their territory. We poured 2 dozen rotten eggs down the drain to make it smell like sewer gas. To draw attention, we obtained a moldy old couch and dumped it in front yard of our neighbor across the road, with permission. During the open house, we called friends for help. Anybody with a loud and crappy car was asked to do a few laps around the block. The street was unusually busy that day, everyone we knew found a reason to drive by. We also contacted mates from the rugby club, known for their tough and large men. The next-door neighbor set up a barbecue in their front yard, offering free food and cheap beer. They came on motorcycles, wearing their roughest gear. There was quite a crowd, and many people showed up but left quickly. One lady sat in her car and watched the party next door before driving away. A brave buyer stayed for a while and started talking to someone leaving the party. He asked if they were often there and was told every couple of weeks or so they had an after-party morning, and the night before's party was 3 doors up. The potential buyer left without making an offer. So my friends were the only ones who made an offer. They still had to pay more than they planned, but not as much as the greedy owners wanted. My friends signed the papers and paid the deposit that day. When a brave buyer put in an offer of $30,000 more than my friends, there was nothing the owners could do about it, strict anti-gazumping laws. I would have loved to see their faces when they found out. Smiling face with horns. Me and my friends used to steal from stores when we were younger. Back when I was about 11 or 12, my friends and I would sneak into stores just for kicks. At first, it was just a lark, but we really loved the rush of adrenaline that came from walking out without paying. We didn't pick anything specific, we just took whatever caught our eye because none of us actually needed any of those things anyway. It was all about getting that little thrill. Of course, now I look back and think it wasn't a very smart idea, especially since we wore our school uniforms. If anyone had recognized us, they could have traced the crime right back to us. But thankfully, nothing ever happened like that. We kept it up for a while, but eventually, we grew out of it. They laugh and I never get used to it. I grew up in a really intense house, full of fights and violence. My parents weren't happy together at all. Mom would party with her friends, and when she got home, Dad would beat her up until the sun came up. She was always quick to get angry, never really there for us. Dad was cold most days, hardly ever joking or laughing. They split up when I was 8, and honestly, it felt like a big relief. Years later, I started living with my mom's sister, we call her Auntie, and her family. It's like stepping into another world. Their house is so different, full of laughter, jokes, and love. Auntie and Uncle tease each other all the time. She loves our cousins more than anything, she nurtures them, worries about them, and is super patient with them in ways I've never seen before. Sure, they have arguments now and then, but mostly, they just laugh it off. I had to share this because it's such a stark contrast from my childhood home. It really makes me appreciate the love and joy that Auntie's family has. Roommates. As Braxmo, a freshly minted college grad, stepped into his new apartment complex, he felt like he had no choice but to rent from them. The only thing available in his price range was a shared place. His scales flickered an angry red as he walked down the hallway. Hernia almighty, what did I get myself into? The hallway looked worse than a rundown apartment building. Braxmo decided to be polite and knocked before entering with his key. The door opened to reveal Nasir, a human with long black hair, looking like a Middle Eastern Zuckerberg who had stopped being a lizard. Nasir said, "Sup man, you must be the new guy." Braxmo nervously replied, "Yeah, that's me." "Come on in," Nasir invited. But walking in felt awkward as Braxmo held his bags. He spotted Hudren, a rat-like creature in a wife-beater and black shorts, sprawled on the couch with his legs on the coffee table, watching TV. Fughan, a snake-like being in a simple t-shirt, was scrolling through his phone, looking bored. Hudren looked up at Braxmo and gave him a polite smile before glancing at Nasir. "Nas, why did you bring a Jehovah's Witness into our apartment?" Chrismock asked, his tone not too harsh but definitely curious. Braxmo stammered, "Hey." Nasir replied sharply, "First, get your feet off my coffee table." Chrismock quickly moved his feet and sat up straight. Second, Nasir continued, "Chris, this guy is our new roommate." Chrismock exclaimed, "New roommate? We barely fit here as it is." Kale, the phone-wielding one, chimed in, "I asked for one because the landlord raised the rent, and it would have been beneficial for us to have a new roommate. But you didn't talk to us about this." Chrismock argued. Kale finally looked up. "We needed 2/3 majority, and Nasir agreed with me." All right, Nasir intervened, patting Braxmo on the shoulder. "Ignore them, they're just being silly. You'll fit right in. Here, let me show you to your room." He guided Braxmo down the hall and opened a door on the left. Inside was a cozy little space with a twin bed, dresser, wardrobe, and work table. "Did someone live here?" Braxmo asked, feeling uneasy. "Yeah," Nasir laughed, "Vaylor used to live here. Poor guy, he gave himself an unalived. But seriously, the last chick was a pain in the ass." With that, Nasir left, clapping him on the shoulder. Braxmo closed the door and stood there, feeling like this was going to be hell. TIFU by learning a foreign phrase from a coworker and using it on the wrong person. So, this one time, a coworker of mine started teaching me some phrases in his first language because he thought it would be cool to greet his family at our company barbecue. He showed me what he said was, "Nice to meet you, I've heard great things." It sounded funny, but I practiced and got the pronunciation down just right. I was so excited. For 2 whole days, I drilled myself until I felt confident enough to use it. Finally, the day of the barbecue arrived, and as soon as I spotted his mom, I walked up to her with a big smile on my face. "Nice to meet you," I said, trying my best to sound natural. But her expression got all weird, like she was confused or something. Her dad started laughing so hard he could barely breathe. My coworker turned pale and joined in the laughter. At first, I had no idea what was going on, but then my coworker explained that my "nice to meet you" was actually more like "sorry about your face." He'd been teaching me a joke phrase his brothers use, but he totally forgot I was planning on using it with his mom. Luckily, she was pretty understanding once she heard the explanation. Now, every time we see each other, she greets me with that same phrase, and I've just accepted it as my own little inside joke. It's a bit awkward sometimes, but at least now I know to be careful about what language tips I take from coworkers. I feel like I'm the person people heal with, but never the one they stay with. Hey, so I'm 25 years old and only speak Spanish, but I'll use a translation tool to share my story. For the past 4 years, I've been single. Before that, I was in a long relationship for about 4 years too. When it ended, I knew healing would take time. So, I focused on work, growing, and moving forward. I never wanted to burden someone new with all those feelings. Since then, I've met some really wonderful women. It always starts the same, going out, laughing, talking for hours, connecting. And honestly, a few times, I thought maybe this time it could be different. But almost every time, they end up telling me something similar, that they got out of something painful just a few months ago. Sometimes with a phone call or sometimes with a cold message saying they're not ready for a relationship. It's like we have these little moments, and then the connection fades away. I'm not angry, I don't think there's bad intent. But it does make me wonder. Am I just someone people use to heal from their past relationships? A few weeks ago, it happened again. I met this girl, we connected, everything seemed good. Then she told me her last relationship had only ended 3 months earlier. Not long after that, she started pulling away. I'm not angry, but I can't help wondering. Am I becoming the person others heal with, but not the one they stay with? Maybe it's all just coincidence. Or maybe I need to learn how to recognize this sooner so I don't get my hopes up. I'm not looking for someone perfect, I just want someone who is emotionally available, someone who chooses me, not to recover from a past relationship, but to build something together. I don't want to be anyone's recovery. I want to be someone's choice. Has anyone else been through something like this? I'd really love to hear your honest opinions. Today the Uber I took got a flat tire and I feel how I reacted is justified and I hopped into an Uber for about 4 kilometers through the bustling city center. Halfway there, one of the tires started deflating. I told the driver we'd end the ride right then and there, and I'd find a different taxi from where we stopped. But he refused to cut it short. Now, as far as I know, if a rider cancels the ride, they're supposed to pay the full fare, but I didn't want that to happen because cash these days, you know. I wasn't in a rush, so instead of arguing, I just waited and watched as he started fixing the tire. He asked me for help, which was tricky because I'd never done anything like that before. Honestly, I fumbled a bit, but he kept calm. When it got to a point where he really needed my help, I tried again to end the ride, but he wouldn't listen. Finally, after some struggle, he managed to fix the tire and drive me all the way to my destination. He didn't involve me too much in the fixing process because he had everything he needed with him. If he'd asked for a new ride, it would have been easy for someone else to jump in. He kept going because he couldn't just leave with a broken-down vehicle. He wanted to finish what we started. In the end, I didn't feel too bad about not getting deeply involved. I mean, it's not like I signed up to fix his car. It wasn't particularly hard on him either, he was well prepared and could have easily found another rider if he needed one. But I think there's a sense of fairness in helping someone when you're both stuck together, right? AITA for calling out my SIL. I've been married for a long time, and both my sister-in-law, SIL, and her kids have gluten allergies. We always go out of our way to make sure they can eat at every party or family event we host. Even though I usually let them bring their own food, sometimes we cook separate dishes just to be extra safe. Recently, my wife had a birthday, and everyone was cooking up a storm for the celebration. I asked about the mac and cheese because my daughter has an egg allergy, and it's crucial she eats something safe. When I inquired if they used egg-free pasta and made sure there was no cross-contamination with the crust, my SIL got really snarky. She said, "I don't know, maybe you can figure it out. Check the box or Google it." That just threw me off, and I felt pretty pissed. After some quick research, I found out that everything was fine, so I fed my daughter. The whole time, though, I heard my SIL complaining to everyone about how I asked about it. She even swore she made a special batch for our daughter, but there wasn't any separate pasta used. After the meal, she kept talking about it, and I finally had to ask her why she was so upset. She said she couldn't hear me at first, twice, and then I had to repeat myself louder. I told her, "Why are you still talking about this? We don't need all this drama." And that's how we ended up having a small argument during my wife's birthday party. It bothered me because we always try so hard to be inclusive of their gluten-free crowd, and it seemed like they either didn't consider my daughter's allergy or just didn't care. But I was also trying not to make a big deal out of it on her special day. My wife ended up upset with how I handled the situation, and I'm not sure if the rest of the family understood what went down. Am I an a-hole for how I dealt with my SIL's attitude? Old hands. By 55, Tomas Vale had retired 3 times. His first stint ended after 29 years spent fixing reactor pumps on freighters that thought a failing pump was an admission of weakness. The second came after just 6 months in a mining station where management insisted radiation alarms were overly sensitive. His wife, Mara, threatened to break his good knee if he took another contract involving temporary structural instability. Tomas listened, but not entirely. Now, Tomas worked 4 shifts a week as a janitor on Long Reach Station, just because he didn't need the money. Long Reach was like a busy crossroads of 6 commercial corridors, housing 19,000 permanent residents and thousands more travelers who thought everything cleaned itself. Tomas knew better. Cargo crews tracked hydraulic fluid through customs, grazing species shed in vents, Thala secreted stress oil that stained white floors purple. Kids from low-gravity habitats threw up farther than they expected in the spin transition corridors. Prestigious jobs were aboard Long Reach, but janitorial work wasn't one of them. Tomas didn't care much. The station issued him a gray uniform, a maintenance badge with limited access, and a cleaning cart that looked like it was made by someone who had never cleaned anything larger than a screen. Tomas fixed the cart in his first week, adding manual pumps, 3 rolls of seal tape, insulated cutters, a collapsible pry bar, 2 respirators, utility cord, a portable heat gun, and enough spare couplings to make station engineers squirm. When an administrator asked why a janitor needed a pry bar, Tomas countered by asking why the station kept making floors that required one. The administrators stopped inspecting his cart after that. His wife worked 3 decks above him in Auxiliary Galley 4. Mara Vale had hauled cargo for 31 years and had piloted ships through military blockades, magnetic storms, civil wars, and won customs inspection by a species that considered rectangular containers evidence of criminal intent. At 55, she was done sleeping beside drive cores. She cooked part-time because she loved feeding people but hated being idle. Mara also enjoyed insulting anyone who complained about portions. Auxiliary Galley 4 served station workers, maintenance crews, haulers, and travelers too poor or sensible to eat in the commercial ring. Mara's kitchen prepared food for 12 species using equipment built for 9. She knew which ingredients poisoned which customers, which spices were religious offenses, and why run needed warning before citrus was heated near them. Her stews were excellent, her temper was better. Long Reach's other residents found Tomas and Mara mildly confusing. Humans had entered the wider interstellar community less than a century earlier. They had no natural armor, weak claws, mediocre night vision, and a lifespan considered tragically brief by galactic standards. 55 was old by human working standards. Tomas and Mara seemed barely developed but inexplicably worn out. The ISTI, who rarely survived beyond 40, saw them as ancient. Both groups agreed that retired humans should probably be seated somewhere comfortable and supervised. Tomas preferred that opinion to when the station's security chief assumed his limp meant he couldn't operate machinery. People who believed you were harmless rarely watched your hands, useful advice for someone like Tomas. Then came the day Long Reach Station tried to digest itself. AITA for having my male coworker bring me Advil for my period cramps. So, I work at this big coffee shop chain, you know, just a regular place where you go to get your morning caffeine fix. My coworker Mark has been around for about 2 years now, and we're more like buddies than anything else. We text, but it's mostly about work stuff or complaining about the crazy customers. Mark's been dating this girl named Stacy for about a year. She's nice enough, I guess, though I don't really know her that well. She only comes to the store when he's working and just lets him take her order. One day, out of nowhere, I got these wicked cramps. They were so bad, it was like nothing I've ever experienced before. It hit me hard during work, and everyone around me had nothing but regular pain relievers, nothing strong enough to help. So, I called Mark quickly because he was due in soon, and there's a drugstore on his way too. I asked him to get some Advil for me, saying I'd pay him back later. He didn't ask why, just said okay. When he gave it to me, he joked about me not having woman problems. It wasn't really funny at the time, but whatever. A few days later, Stacy came into our store while Mark was gone. She started going on and on about how I had tried to steal her guy by asking him for Advil. I mean, what? I'm newly married, so I definitely wasn't trying to do anything with Mark. But she kept talking about it, how getting a man's help during your monthly time is a romantic gesture. It was such a surprise, I didn't know how to react. She was escorted out eventually, but the damage was done. Some of my coworkers agreed with her and said I was an a-hole for being too involved in their relationship. But others thought I did nothing wrong, that it was just a friendly act. So, here's the big question, am I an a-hole for getting into other people's business? My stepdad wouldn't shut my door when I was changing. Being a 14-year-old guy, I don't really check the time that often. So imagine this, it's Sunday morning, and I'm just lying around in my room, wearing shorts and a tank top, barefoot. My stepdad comes into my room right as we're supposed to leave for church. Ugh, I thought, now I have to change. But here's the thing, his door doesn't close properly because of the pesky doorstop he put on it. So naturally, I explain to him that I need to get changed quickly. But instead of respecting my privacy, he just stands there with that door wide open. And that's not all, he's trying to broadcast my less than pristine extremities to the rest of the house, 7 people and 4 animals included. Can you imagine? We argued for a minute about it until I finally got fed up and shut the door, locking it behind me. That's when he realized he was on his own. So, without even saying goodbye, he left me at home with no church whatsoever. Can you believe it? I called my mom, and we were both pretty pissed off at him. She had to come pick me up from school because of this whole mess. I don't think this story is as exciting as the other ones on this subreddit, but let's face it, sometimes life just gives you a day like that. How should my wife and I split finances? I, M32, and my wife, F30, are having some real money issues here, like trying to split up all our bills in the UK. She moved over from the US to be with me, but it hasn't been easy. She used to have a great job where she made a lot of money, but since being here, finding work has been tough. I mean, she's got an Ivy League MA, and still, she's struggled to get a job in the UK. Things got even harder for her mentally when we moved. Being so far from family and friends really took a toll on her mental health. She saved up more money than me, but right now, she doesn't have any income. She thinks I should cover all our expenses because of that. But here's the thing, I think we both need to contribute more since she has savings, even though I do have an income. We split the mortgage evenly, and she's okay with that. The problem is, it seems like she expects me to pay for everything else too. And honestly, I feel like I should be splitting things more equally. But you see, in a few years, she's starting a PhD program. She won't have any income during her studies, and even after that, the job prospects aren't looking great. So, what do we do? It's kind of like being stuck in this endless game of who pays for what. We both want to help each other, but it feels like there's no easy solution. What do you mean our doctrine is centuries behind humanity? High Lord Zapek was getting really frustrated. His science director Lyap looked nervous as he explained things. For 50 cycles now, we've been at war with humanity. The Silian Empire controls over 50,000 star systems and has been dealing with countless conflicts for eons. But these humans are different. They've expanded to nearly 1,000 systems in just a few centuries. And they're not like other colonizers, no slavery, no aggressive expansion, they make friends wherever they can. What makes them special is their military strategies. In every battle, we thought we had the upper hand, but humanity always found ways to outsmart us. They outnumber us, but in efficiency and innovation, they dominate. Every new tactic we came up with was already countered by them. It's like playing a game where you're always one step behind. Lyap started explaining, we've been struggling to get accurate information because of the war and sanctions. The latest data is from when humanity was still confined to Earth, sailing its seas. But what have you learned, Liap? Zapek demanded. Well, Liap hesitated. Remember that battle at Oslan 7? When humans stopped using stealth and destroyed our ships by staying out of range. It's like an ancient kingdom defeating a much larger navy. Or the later loss at Utica, where they stormed through our lines and boarded our ships. That's similar to what historians call the Battle of Gibraltar. And there are these raiding actions against our supply vessels. They deny us areas, just like ancient pirates did for kings. Their history is full of conflicts, and their strategies evolved over time. We're losing because we're basically repeating tactics that humanity has already tested and countered. Zapek was furious. You mean to tell me they're winning because our intergalactic warfare is similar to theirs? When they barely knew how to shoot projectiles at each other. Liap replied, defeated. Well, yes. Zapek stared at Liap for a moment, considering his options. Finally, he said, Science Director, your department is shut down, and you're reassigned somewhere useful. You've wasted Imperial resources on nothing. Be glad you're not court-martialed. The High Lord of the Fleets dismissed the meeting and reviewed plans for a new design proposal, a round vessel with huge kinetic cannons all around it. But even as he did, Zapek had his doubts about its stability. Should I tell his girlfriend, confront him, or just let it go? Alright, here goes. I'm honestly torn about this situation because I was seeing a guy for about 5 weeks. We met up several times, and whenever we were together, he was super sweet and respectful. He was affectionate too, and it felt like he really cared. He even introduced me to his pets, which made me get attached pretty fast. We started getting physical as well, but early on, he mentioned that he had been single for a couple of years. However, there were some red flags from the start. When we weren't together, he hardly texted me and could go an entire day without contacting me, especially on weekends. He was also hesitant when I asked for his social media or details about his personal life. Eventually, after things got uncomfortable, I told him I wasn't happy with how things were going and that I didn't think we should continue seeing each other. He apologized, said he had been busy, respected my decision, and wished me well. But the kicker came later when I stumbled upon one of his social media accounts. Through it, I saw a woman who seemed to have a very close relationship with him. They shared pets, celebrated anniversaries, traveled together, basically everything you'd expect from a couple. The girl's status was, in a relationship. Now, here's where things get messy. I don't actually know their exact timeline. Maybe they were still together when he and I were dating. Or maybe they had already broken up or were just co-parenting their pets. The thing is, he wasn't entirely truthful with me about some things. If you were in my shoes, would you tell the woman what happened? Would you confront him first, or would you just leave it alone and move on? It's a tough call either way. AITA for shouting at my daughter, despite clearly going against her wishes. Last year, my youngest daughter, let's call her Emma, 20, wanted to give our living room a fresh look with some new paint. She was so excited, but honestly, I got carried away too. I thought I'd just test out the colors on an area behind the couch, just to see how it looked, but of course, she found out and got really upset. She said it ruined her motivation, that she wanted to do it eventually, but not now. I felt awful for going behind her back and apologized immediately. For a whole year, I'd asked her if she was getting to it, and every time, she just said, got plans, don't worry. Then last month, my closest friends who I hadn't seen in years were visiting, and I got super anxious about the house. I remembered those paints and suddenly had this urge to redo everything. I felt like I was doing something wrong, but I went ahead anyway. While she was asleep, I started repainting the whole living room. Big mistake. Emma woke up and saw what I did. She started crying and tried to throw out the paints. She said I always do things without permission. I got angry, I don't know why, because it's my house, but still. I said she could leave if she hated it here, that she never tells us anything about her projects or life. We were in a language barrier too, she speaks French only, and I barely speak French. She stormed off, refusing to talk to me since then. The next day, I sent her a text apologizing, but she blocked my number. Now, I don't know if what I did was right. I feel torn between standing up for myself as a parent and not hurting my daughter anymore. We never had deep conversations because of the language issue. I just don't know how else to talk to her. Emma needs me, she can't support herself out there, and we barely make ends meet ourselves. I want to go talk to her, but my wife said to give her space for now. AITA. I feel like I'm in a really tough spot here. The ink that remembered. Every autumn, first-year students at Ravenshade College received a small glass bottle, just enough to fill a finger's width with black ink. Use it wisely, the archivists would say. No more will ever be made. Most students thought it was just a fancy tradition. But Elias never forgot about it. On the night before the midwinter symposium, Elias uncorked his bottle and copied an ancient manuscript whose edges were crumbling. The ink flowed smoothly, and its letters shimmered as they settled onto the parchment. Then something incredible happened. The faded words of the original manuscript darkened. Cracks in the parchment softened, and lost sentences appeared where there had been empty gaps. Elias's heart raced as he carried the manuscript to archivist Rowan. The old scholar smiled with satisfaction. You've discovered its purpose, he said. I thought it was magical ink. Elias asked. It is, Rowan replied. But not in the way people imagine. He led Elias through a hidden door into a circular chamber lined with thousands of identical bottles, every one empty. Each bottle holds the memory of a generation's scholarship, Rowan explained. Every note, every correction, every translation, all passed from one mind to another. Elias stared at the silent shelves. So the ink remembers what people refuse to let be forgotten, Rowan said. When enough knowledge is preserved with care, memory itself becomes a craft. Rowan handed Elias a fresh sheet of parchment. What should I write? He asked. Not what you know today, Rowan answered. Write something that will help someone you'll never meet. Elias dipped his pen once more. The ink caught the candlelight, and somewhere on those endless shelves, an empty bottle filled by a single dark drop. To fool by talking too much about someone's marriage. A couple of months ago, my close friend, who felt like a sister to me, asked if I could babysit her kids for weeks. Her husband had left the house, and she was so upset that she didn't know if he would come back or if they were getting divorced. I was worried too, so I told my parents and 2 friends about it because I needed support. During those weeks, I honestly can't remember every conversation I had, but I think I might have mentioned it to other people as well. Her husband came back after 2.5 weeks, but now she's mad at me. She says I told everyone in our community that her husband was gone for good. The truth is, I just said he was visiting his family in Germany, and I also told a few people the real story, but I can't remember who exactly. I tried to explain that it wasn't my intention to spread rumors and apologized. But she got really upset and asked me not to make a big deal out of it. She even told me not to come near her family ever again, which made me feel like she was cutting me out completely. My parents found out because they saw me crying about the whole thing, so they knew what had happened too. Then her dad called my dad, and they talked about it. Her dad apologized for how things went down and said he hopes we can still be friends someday, but I doubt that will happen. I realized I probably shouldn't have shared such a private family matter with anyone, and now I feel like a huge failure because this was someone I thought of as family, and now she's rejecting me completely because of what I said. My ex-MIL sent her church friends to harass my daughters and I. I have now exposed her family to her church community and she's getting shamed and shunned at church. This week was extra special because it was my youngest daughter's birthday. We live near a weekend market where you can find all sorts of fresh produce, eggs, and meats directly from local farmers. My plan was simple, I would give her a budget and let her shop for whatever she wanted. Mostly, I thought she'd pick up some chocolate and sweets. But after an hour, I started to worry. Just as I was about to call her, she called me first. She sounded scared, saying some weird people had cornered her at the market. My oldest daughter and I rushed over to find 6 older women berating my youngest for being unchristian because she refused to spend time with her paternal grandparents or be a good big sister to their orphan baby brothers. You see, my daughters know about the scandal, how their father was unfaithful and left behind 2 children from his affair. They weren't fond of the kids and were dealing with it under a therapist's care. The women were aggressive, saying I wasn't following my ex-in-law's wishes as a good Christian wife. Their accusations made me sick. The crowd got too loud, and we had to leave. In the car, I explained what happened to my girls, and they were devastated. Later that night, I talked to another church member who could help. She told me about how my ex-mother-in-law was spreading a story on Facebook saying how terrible my daughters and I were, accusing us of making her grandsons homeless. It was ridiculous. I had evidence from the divorce, so I decided to confront the situation. The next day, I went to a print shop and got copies of all the damning photos, texts, emails, and even some disturbing messages where they bullied my daughters about their baby brothers. I printed everything on beautiful high-quality paper and made personalized binders that looked like church song packets. I took them to the church before service. When we put them in the desk for people who needed them, the gossip was fierce. The names given to my ex-husband and his mistress were so bad that even the pastor had to step in to keep things relatively PG-13. People were angry at my ex-in-laws for their treatment of my daughters but still blamed me for the divorce. One message even called us bastards because we told on the affair. The next day, I received 2 apology letters and an invitation from the church. But the real shocker was when my ex-mother-in-law posted about how alienated she felt, wishing her great son were still alive to take care of her. In the end, it turned out that my ex-husband's parents had been named as beneficiaries in his will, which shocked me since I thought he'd left them out. This whole ordeal has made me realize just how deep the hurt and betrayal run, but I won't let their lies define us anymore. My wife felt I broke an agreement I didn't know we had. So my wife, F32, and I, M35, have been together for about 5 years now. We got married just last year, and we've pretty much lived as one since the beginning. She's a bit of a busy bee at home, always keeping herself occupied with her own stuff. And I work full-time, but my schedule is fairly flexible, so I can sometimes start early or leave earlier if need be. A few days ago, I had a really long shift, 9 whole hours. By the time it was over, I was pretty beat. So, I texted her that around 3 p.m., I might head home an hour early, just to get some rest. But things didn't go as planned. I got delayed and ended up leaving at 3:30 instead. I sent a quick message at 3:20 to let her know I was running behind. She wasn't expecting me that early, since we hadn't talked about it, so she wasn't waiting for me. But when I finally walked through the door, the atmosphere was tense. She was upset because I was late and thought I had broken some sort of unspoken agreement. She felt like I'd prioritized my work over her. I tried to explain that there was no real agreement, no one had expected me to leave an hour early. But she kept questioning it, saying maybe I should have known better or done things differently. It's not like I intentionally left earlier, I just did what I thought would make sense for the day. We talked and talked, but she still seemed upset. She felt like I was defensive, and that didn't make me feel any better. Eventually, we managed to calm down, but it took a while, probably an hour or 2. And even though she said everything was fine in the end, I couldn't shake off the feeling that maybe I should have just stayed for my full shift after all. It felt like a lot of emotional hassle over something pretty minor. I think this has happened before in our relationship, but I've always thought it was because I didn't communicate well enough. Maybe that's part of it, but sometimes it feels like she expects things from me that she never really said, and when I don't meet those expectations, she gets upset. And that's hurtful. I'm not sure what to do about it. She definitely has her feelings for a reason, but at the same time, I feel like my intentions are clear, I just want us both to be happy and respected. Is there any way we can prevent these kinds of situations from happening? It's not ideal when you think everything is going great, only to have an argument over something so small. I've been lying about myself for no reason for years. Ever since I was little, I've been lying about pretty much everything. When I was a kid, I told people I had older siblings who lived in Hawaii and could speak Spanish fluently. In 4th grade, I started saying I was deaf in one ear. People believed me so easily that I never really had to work hard at it. In middle school, I just started spilling out wild, made-up stories to anyone who would listen. I claimed I'd been a victim of grooming by a man 8 years older when I was 8 to 11. He tried to drown me, and I ended up in the hospital. That's how crazy these lies got. In 6th grade, I spun an elaborate tale that I had been assaulted, got pregnant, and had an abortion, all while hiding it from my parents. Then, as friends moved on, I did it again. I also lied about having epilepsy and other conditions, faking seizures and symptoms to make them seem real. During a relationship with someone who had dissociative identity disorder, I started faking did myself. And even now, I'm 17 and 9 months, I've been lying so long that these stories have become detailed backstories. For example, the fake man who groomed me has an extensive history. Everyone in my life outside of family, except for my boyfriend, knows at least one of these lies. To keep him from finding out about my medical history, I told him I get into trouble for talking about it and that's why he never brings it up again. I've convinced almost everyone who knows me of at least one big lie, but the truth is, I don't know how to come clean without hurting people. The problem is, I don't want anyone to take my lies as real information or rely on them for anything important. Every time I tried to be honest about my lies before, it only ended up hurting those close to me. All I really want now is for the people in my life to know the real me, so they can choose if they still want to be around me. The viral video. I crouched behind a car, my heart racing like crazy. This was supposed to be the first time I asked Shyla Gray out. But before I could even gather enough courage to pop up, Jake Pennington strolled up to her and wrapped his arm around her. My stomach dropped. How could she let him do that? Jake, I mumbled under my breath. Today was meant to be the best day of my life, but now it felt like a total disaster. Perry Bredsworth noticed me hiding behind the Buick and yelled out, "Pappy." I tried shushing him with my hand, but he just kept shouting louder. Shyla turned and saw me standing up, dusting myself off. She waved at me, and oh man, she looked like she was actually waving back. My face lit up with the biggest, most gushy smile. I knew she had a thing for me. But then, as quickly as my confidence soared, reality crashed down on me. Shyla dropped her arm, Jake started laughing, and pointed at me. Jessica Rambart walked by, and suddenly, it hit me, Shyla wasn't waving at me after all. The day couldn't get any worse, could it? I went home, only to find my younger sister and her friends huddled around an iPad, laughing their heads off at some video. They stared at me with weird smiles. I just said, whatever, and headed to the kitchen where my parents and a few neighbors were gathered, all laughing too. As soon as I walked in, they spread apart like I was a bomb about to go off. My dad tried to hide by slamming down his phone's volume button, but I snatched it from him and stared at the screen. There it was, every moment of the fiasco with Shyla, my failed wave, me hiding behind the car, Perry yelling at me, everything, all recorded on Reddit with over 100,000 views. The day got a whole lot worse than I could ever imagine. AITA for telling my sister that she kind of had a joke about her disability coming. 5 nights ago, we went camping with my family. It was just me, my dad, mom, older sister, 27, little sister, 13, and I'm 19. My little sister and I both have ADHD, mine is diagnosed, but she's still being evaluated for the same symptoms. She struggles to focus and listen and can be a bit rude unintentionally, which makes sense since middle school girls can sometimes be mean. During the trip, my older sister kept repeating herself about the supplies we brought. She then said seriously that my little sister needed her head checked because something was obviously wrong. This was weird, nobody said anything for a while, probably shocked. My little sister seemed upset, scooting closer to me. She's already insecure about having trouble remembering things and being slower in school. I wanted to call out my older sister but didn't know how. So I planned on talking to her later. We set up the campsite as usual, but this was where I should mention my older sister's disability. She injured her right arm a long time ago and now it doesn't work as well. We don't bring it up much because she's insecure about it. My mom helped my older sister carry something when my little sister said, "God, it's like you did this on purpose so we'd have to do all the work." She meant it as a joke but it backfired. My older sister got really upset and started crying, lashing out at my little sister. It turned into a yelling match, but I managed to calm everyone down. My parents didn't help much. My little sister was also crying. We decided to go home, it had started raining too. 3 days later, my older sister was ranting about the whole thing. She screamed at me for defending her and kicked me out of the car a mile from home. Now she hasn't spoken to our family in days, and I'm worried. My dad told me not to have done that, but I don't feel like I did anything wrong. The older sister started it by saying those hurtful things. Everyone's mad at me for defending her, expecting me to fix the situation or plan a reconciliation. In hindsight, I definitely shouldn't have said she had it coming, that was rude. But I was angry about what my older sister said initially. I'm not sure if anyone is in the wrong here, I don't feel like I am but also don't think they are either. Thoughts and opinions welcome. Should I reach out to my ex after finding out his dad passed away? Yes, dad passed away. We were together for 5 years, lived in the same house, even picked a date for our wedding. It didn't work out though, things ended pretty badly between us. I haven't seen or talked to him or his family in 4 years now. But then, the news hit me like a punch in the gut, I found out he had passed away. I was devastated not just for my ex but for his whole family too. They adored him and always included me in their circle, making me feel like part of their family from day one. His dad was an amazing man, and I felt so welcome every time I visited. The news came as a shock, and it's hard to keep the tears at bay. I feel guilty for not being there during his final moments, even though we had our disagreements. He passed away as a hero, but I only learned about it from the news. Now, I'm torn, wanting to reach out with my condolences but unsure if it's right after all that bad blood between us.